welcome to another tutorial. Today we're just going to be having a look at Animate and the very basics about how to get started with it if you're new to the program. Now a big shout out to Wojak101, check out his great channel for animations because this is what he's wanting to cover. So today as a request, let's get started. So once you start new project, the first thing you'll notice is a screen with a range of options about what kind of project you would like. Now there are lots of different options to choose from, but the two that you'll probably only be working with are HTML5 Canvas and ActionScript 3. Now HTML5 Canvas allows you to do interactive animations that you can upload to a website, and ActionScript 3 allows you to do animations that are just going to be uploaded to YouTube and outputted as a video. So they both work very similarly. There are just a couple of key differences. We'll cover them in the video, but if you're going to be making something interactive, you want HTML Canvas. If you're going to be making just a YouTube animation video, then you want ActionScript 3 for the reasons I'll demonstrate. Now the next thing is to look at the sizes and the image height and width of the canvas that you're going to be working with. So the best settings are 4K, which is 3840. Yep, 3840 by 2160. Now with Animate, if you're making everything inside Animate and you're drawing everything from scratch, you can change your canvas sizes to 1024 by 768 for example. It doesn't really matter because everything can be scaled up when you export your project, but that's not the case if you're using raster images. So if you have some PNG files that you want to display, you're better off just keeping it to the 4K size if that's what you're going to be planning on rendering for YouTube. So it's really easy to do the export. I'll be covering that in another video, but today let's just continue getting started. Now the next thing you'll look at is the pixels and then the frame rate, which is the standard animation 24 frames per second. So the first thing to notice is that you've got your tools down the left hand side in the toolbar. That's everything from colour to paint to choosing your colour, and then on the right side you've got your panels for the different properties for each of the tools that you've got and how to interact with the canvas. You've then got the size that you can change and the play button up there at the top to play your animation once it's ready. Now the menus, you can get to access to all the menus quite easily from window and choosing which one you want there, but as for the other options on the other menus, there isn't really a lot that you'll be using apart from the edit and the copy and the paste options, so you don't need to worry too much about some of the options up here at all. It's really the timeline down at the bottom that you'll be organising and working with. So the first thing you can do is create a new layer on your timeline and then name that layer to something that is like main timeline. Let's just start with that, and then you can create a new folder to record your scenes in. So we'll name that folder first scene and we'll put the layer for main timeline inside first scene. So as well as adding more folders for more scenes, everything will stay on the main timeline. But if you've selected ActionScript 3 at the start of your project, this is where it comes in handy because you can select scenes, which is an actual property of the canvas, and then you can have different scenes set up, each with their own individual timeline. So it's much easier to manage than having everything on the one timeline. You can add scenes in and you can delete them and name them. So that's your two options, and that's the difference really between the canvas and the ActionScript. So the first thing we'll do is create a layer called bird, and we'll use the classic paintbrush tool to draw a picture of a bird. Now once you've finished the bird, you can use the selection tool to select it. You're actually better off selecting it in the frame, and I'll show you why, because you can select a part of it here, and then if you drag it you'll see that there's a part that we didn't select, so you've got to be careful. So if I select on that part and I expand it, you'll see we now have a bird shape with a beak, which looks a bit better. So I'm going to just take the paint bucket and I'm going to just fill the shape with the colour to just make it a solid colour. Now notice down the bottom when you've got the paint fill tool selected that you have a range of options which include closing the size of the gap when you're filling with the paint fill tool. Now the next thing is to select the frame that the object is in that you've drawn and right click on it and select convert to symbol. in the pop-up, name your symbol and make sure it's a graphic, not a movie clip like I have here. Now if we're in the main timeline and we click on the bird body, you'll see that we go inside the bird body symbol and it shows you up here in the top navigation bar. Next I'm going to draw a wing, and then I'm just going to convert it to a symbol and name the symbol wing front. Now I'm going to use this control to expand the timeline to make it look bigger so I can see what I'm doing, and then I'm going to right click on the next box and insert a blank keyframe. You'll notice that our current drawn wing disappears, so how to get that back is you turn on the feature called onion skinning, and as you can see there's a little bar that shows you how far back your onion skinning feature works, so it will show you the previous frame if you drag back far enough. So all I'm going to do now is just repeat the process and draw each of the frames off my wing. Then you can click on the loop button and it's the same as the onion skin, you get a bar that you can then drag along to choose how far you want to loop. So just select the whole lot and then click play. Now it might seem a little fast, so you can insert frames at each of the keyframes that you've drawn and expand those so they last longer. Right click and insert a frame on each of the keyframes, and if you use the shortcut key it's F5, you can press it a couple of times. So I feel that this is a little too fast, so I'll remove some of the frames, and this time I'll just right click and remove frame, and you can use the keyboard shortcut which is Shift and F5, so that looks much better in the loop. So next thing I'm going to do is just show you about tweening. So if you click on the first frame and then the last frame and now right click and select classic tween, and you'll notice that you get arrows along on the timeline now. Now what happens is each of the frames that didn't have a new keyframe on it gets moved to suit the one beside it as an intermediary, so that makes it look like everything is smoother on the screen. So instead of having 4 frames drawn now, you've actually got 8 different frames because the movements have happened on the 4 duplicate frames, if that makes sense. So now come out of wings and come back into bird body symbol. Now you're just going to right click and select insert frame on the squares that are the same length as the symbol that you just done. So we just made 8 frames for the symbol, so let's insert frame at the 8th place on the bird body timeline. So if we move back and forward across the timeline, we'll see that the wings aren't flapping yet. So there's a reason for that, and that's because the timeline is a representation of the old drawing of what the wings were. We need to just delete the frame and then drag the symbol back from the assets section into the main timeline again of bird body. Now you'll notice that the wings flap along the timeline. So if we come out of the bird symbol and come back to our main timeline, and let's make a new layer, call it background, and let's just draw some background scenery such as a sun and some trees just so we can set the mood. Now I'm no artist, as you can see. Wojak 101 on the other hand, he is Da Vinci reincarnated. So if you extend the timeline of the background and the bird, you'll notice the bird still doesn't flap. Now once again, that's because of the same problem, is that the drawing on the canvas is the drawing that we used previously, not the symbol that was created, that was made new. So we need to just delete the frame and drag the symbol back onto the canvas again. This time we're dragging the bird symbol back on. Now this time you can see that the wings are flapping on the timeline, so that's us working now. Now I'm just going to come back into the bird body graphic symbol, and this time we're just going to create a new layer, and it's going to be for a new symbol called wing back, and that's going to be a layer underneath body, so it's hidden by the body. Next we'll convert it to a symbol and we'll call it wing back, and this time we'll delete the frame and then drag the symbol from the assets library again. So let's extend the timeline, and then instead of drawing fresh frames, let's click on the timeline at the first one that we want to change, and then actually just rotate or move the object that's there, which in this case is the wing. Now just repeat the process, and then you can right click and classic tween it. Now we just need to extend the timeline of the back wing inside the bird body. And you'll notice in our main timeline now that the bird is flapping with both wings. So let's animate the bird flying across the screen, and if you just select the first frame which has the bird symbol in it, and then make sure that you're on the bird layer obviously, and then drag it to where the bird is going to start, which is on the right hand side of the screen, and then position it for a middle frame and then also an end frame. So now when I click loop, the bird flies across the screen, but you'll notice that it's a bit jerky, so we'll easily fix that and we'll just tween it with classic tween. So there we have a flapping bird flying across the screen. So hopefully that covers a range of things that can get you started in animating, and if you have any other requests for tutorials or problems that you get stuck with when you're animating with Animate, then drop me a message in the comments and I'll respond and hopefully put up a tutorial or something for you. Okay, once again, thanks very much for Wojak101 and his request, and hopefully you can check out his channel. Thanks very much for watching this video today. Hopefully you can subscribe too to this channel and give me a thumbs up with a like, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Okay, thanks, bye.